Picture this. You're a paleontologist in the late 1800s wandering through the prairie, and oh, what's this? You find a bone. A dinosaur bone. Great heavens, you'll have to return to the same place immediately to start excavating for more bones. You head over to the same area the next day, and what's this? Is that the guy you met in Berlin at that conference a few years ago? Yeah, it is. Oh, hell no. This motherfucker is trying to steal your bones.
Okay, I'm poking fun, but I'm not that far off, because during America's Gilded Age, paleontologists were actually trying to find new and exciting dinosaur species to showcase to the public. In their quest to be the very best, like no one ever was, they resorted to underhanded tactics like stealing, bribery, and a lot of backstabbing. Today, I really want to focus on two main culprits, rivals Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh. These two were really well-respected paleontologists at their respective universities, and they met at a conference in Berlin in 1864, and they were kind of pals for a little while, which is kind of fun. So they were pals so much to the point where they actually named dinosaur species after each other, which is kind of cute. But their friendship did not last very long, unfortunately, because the relationship soon soured, and they kind of got really passive-aggressive towards one another. They each thought that they were the better paleontologist. Soon, the passive-aggressive vibes became full-on sabotage. For example, one day Edward took Othniel to one of his dig sites just to show him around, be kind of cordial and nice. And Othniel, like the sneaky bastard he was, bribed the pit operator to give him the better fossils instead of Edward. After that, their relationship just devolved, and they were both kind of jabbing each other and talking smack in whatever way they could. Journal articles, interviews, you name it. Othniel put Edward on blast so hard that I have to kind of laugh about it 200 years later. Othniel goes,
"Your Elasmosaurus reconstruction looks ridiculous. You put its skull on its tail."
Poor Edward was so embarrassed by this that he tried to buy up every publication that had published this mistake so that other people wouldn't see it, like his peers and just the general public. Eddie was no saint, though. He was ready to fight back. He did some sneaking of his own and found Othniel's dig site in Wyoming. And nobody was around, so he thought he would look around and take some of the fossils for his own keeping. This pissed Othniel off, and boy was he ready to fight back.
Well then, I guess it's time to take it up a notch.
Othniel applied for every position that he basically could at his university to get into a higher power within his paleontologist field. And he did. He kind of got onto a couple of different boards and extracurricular sort of things. And he used this newfound power to talk as much smack as he could about Edward, and thereby ruin some of his credibility. Edward was also ready to fight back. He, on top of talking smack about Othniel, found anyone and everyone he could to also publicly denounce him, whether it be in newspapers or journal publications, just anyone that he could. On top of that, Edward was ready to accuse Othniel of plagiarism and embezzlement. Edward accused Othniel of embezzling money that his university gave him for research and just using it for frivolous, fun things. This caused Othniel's employer to obviously question him and asked him to resign immediately when they found out he was, in fact, using his funds inappropriately. This was all the perfect storm because honestly there was nobody left in Othniel's corner of the ring at this point because all of his allies were either resigning or they were dying, unfortunately, just because they were getting old. On top of the examples that I've already given, these two would just go back and forth all day, just kind of bashing each other to the point where the paleontology community sort of was embarrassed by them because of how public their feud was. Don't get me wrong, they were really well respected within their fields. They were just giant assholes to each other. And maybe you're wondering, is there a happy ending here? And I'm sorry to say, no, there really isn't. Because these two were bitter rivals up until the very end here. Edward donated his skull to science just so that he could get his brain size measured. Back in the day, brain size was thought to be correlated with how smart you were. So if your brain was bigger, you were thought to be smarter. And Edward was hoping that his brain would be larger than Othniel's. Unfortunately, Othniel did not want his brain size measured, so Edward did not get the last laugh in the end. It's kind of like Eddie had an obsession here.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Anyway, this decades-long rivalry between both men ruined them both financially. Edward got sick towards the end of his life and had to sell his fossil collection in order to make ends meet, and Othniel had to pretty much crawl back to his former employer, Yale University, just to get a livable wage, so he didn't really die by the end. So kind of a sad ending, but you're probably wondering, okay, Nikki, who won this bone war? So the winner is Othniel Marsh. So Othniel actually discovered 80 new dinosaur species, and Edward only discovered 56. And I really shouldn't say that he only discovered 56. That's a lot of different dinosaur species that, wouldn't have been discovered if it wasn't for these two. But the numbers don't lie. In my opinion, their discoveries were really cool, and I admire them both for discovering so many new dinosaur species. But I can't get behind how they treated their peers. You gotta respect your peers within your professional community, even if they're just giant asshats. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what I should talk about next. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed the video. That would really help me out. But other than that, I'll see you next time. Bye!